Hey guys, we're out doing some mechanic work today. The clutch went out about a year ago on the Massey-Ferguson, and we finally we got the clutch relined probably 6 months ago, and boogered around with it and had a lot of fun, and still couldn't get it lined up and back together. Of course, it was in the freezing cold, so that was a little bit aggravating. But today, working on that and the old backhoe. Afraid we had a catastrophic failure. Preliminary findings are not very good. It looks like the tail shaft coming out of the transmission to the rear end may have stripped or sheared off, but we're going to keep tearing into that and see what we can figure out. But anyhow, we're fixing to have the old Massey-Ferguson up and running before springtime, just in time for garden time. If anybody ever splits a tractor, don't do what we did. We got some bell housing bolts in right here, and then Dad had the bright idea to put a come along and a chain on the other side and winch it together slowly, and we got a little carried away and broke off this starter flange right here. And I was really worried because it was cast that we weren't going to be able to get the starter to mount back in, and it broke right in the center of the bolt. I don't know if you can see that, but right in the center of the bolt hole. But there's a bolt hole right here, so we tightened that in. It's a little triangle piece. Tightened that in, and then hammered the broke piece back in place, then tightened that bolt in there to hold it in place. This bolt didn't break out, so we tightened that one, and this one, actually the threads we got close enough together where we could screw them back together. So actually nice and solid, and it's going to do the trick. If we ever have trouble in the future, we'll just have to make us a little bracket that goes from here down to there or something to fix that, or get us some nickel rods. But anyhow, the boys are fixing to set the hood back on. I've got everything tied back together. Things we've learned from doing this, and fortunately we hopefully made our mistakes on this little tractor and learned, so when we get to that beast it'll be a little bit easier on us. But in hindsight, if we had it to do again, Jordan, you can put that cover back underneath if you want. In hindsight, if we had to do it again, we thought this thing might sit for a while, so I didn't want to waste a piece of plywood, but I'd just go ahead and buy a 3/4 inch piece of plywood and lay it underneath of it, or better yet, have a good shop with a concrete pad, which someday, Lord willing, we'll have. But this worked for starters to get us rolling. Live and learn. But yeah, definitely work off a solid surface, block your wheels, everything. Anyhow, there's getting the tractor going. We'll be excited to have this one going. The brakes work, and it's a 56 model Ferguson. It's a good old tractor. Hey guys, so back to the backhoe. Found out the problem. You can see down in there. Show us what's loose, Caleb. Right here, there's a little lock nut that locks on the back side of that. Yeah, right there, what he's turning. And it tightens that. Looks like that rear end bearing tightens in. And this shaft, trying to get down in there. This shaft right here that connects the rear end to the transmission is just flopping in there loose. Caleb took this side panel off and he found out what the problem is. So hopefully, theoretically, we'll be able to tighten that dude down and torque it down, and we should be back in good shape again. That'll be a real blessing. That'll be a whole lot easier than splitting it in half and going through all that heartache. The boys have got the tractor all tight, and they're finishing up small stuff, putting the wiring back on, ready to put the tank in, and maybe we'll have the old Massey up and running this evening. Hey guys, check this out. We found out what the problem is. This little shaft right here goes together like that, and it's supposed to have a little cotter key in here. So look in the manual, there's a cotter pin slot right there, and what that does is it keeps that shaft from sliding back and forth. So what had actually happened was the shaft had slidden back enough to where this part, the teeth had jumped out of their socket right here, and there was no drive between the rear end and the rear end's back here, and then the transmission's up here. There was no drive, it was just flopping loose in there, and that little cotter key was missing. But if you look, it can slide back and forth like that if it doesn't have that cotter pin in there to pull it out to the right position and lock it in. But anyhow, it's gonna be a quick fix. It's taking a couple hours to find it, but it's gonna be this one's not large enough obviously, but it's gonna be a, I don't know, 20-cent cotter pin that's gonna fix the issue for her. So that's a real blessing. We thought the old backhoe was dead in the water for a bit, but we'll hopefully get that cotter pin and change the fluids out. They were kind of rough anyway, and then we'll be back up and running here in the next day or two. So Caleb's about to start putting stuff back together. He's done a good job so far. He ended up having to pull out a little more than he wanted, pull the old seat out and whatnot, but we ended up, here's the problem that we ended up with. This cotter pin was out, and this is a nut that loads that bearing right there for the rear end, and the cotter pin had come out, and then the whole thing had backed off, and I spent several hours today hunting for a hardened cotter pin or something, just not the little cheap thin steel ones that everybody sells in packs, and couldn't find anything. So we ended up with a 16 penny nail. Hopefully that's gonna hold. But we had some, yeah, there's a lot of old bearings. Apparently this part right here is new, so apparently this was recently replaced. You can see there's part of the old part that was broken, and all these old bearings were laying down in the bottom there. But we about got it put back together, and gonna change the fluid out while they're at it, and then hopefully we'll be back up and running. Stay tuned.
Alright y'all, we got the backhoe going. It took us quite a bit, but we finally got it there. One of our YouTubers sent us 2 manuals for this backhoe. It really helped a lot. A lot of what we did, we had to read those manuals for, especially when it came to hooking up that shaft and all that. I had no clue what to do, so I got to read that manual and find out. That was really helpful, and it really helped us out a lot. Thank you for that. It's working now. It's getting up and going a lot better than it used to. I think a lot of that came loose and wasn't letting it drive so well. But yeah, if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.